This is our fireside chat with the brand new executive director, first female athletic director at Rutgers University, Keli Zinn.
Thank you, thank you.
That's right, rah, rah. Now talk about courage, okay? Who puts a hat on when they're at an event and worried about hair, okay? But when you are a former Scarlet Knight, how excited do you think I am to see Keli in her role? Keli, not only are we welcoming you today to your first WBLF, because you'll be back for more, but we want to welcome you to our great state of New Jersey and, of course, to Rutgers University. Thanks so much for being here with us today.
Thank you.
Now, I believe it's been about a whopping 1 month since you've been on board, been quite busy, and frankly, you've been busy winning football games. Congratulations, 3-0 Scarlet Knights. Let's hear it. But before we explore your amazing career journey, I just wanted to ask you to give us an idea of what attracted you to leave Louisiana State University and that great state to come to our great state of New Jersey.
Yeah, that's a great question. And obviously a number of things that went into it. You know, as we've talked a lot about the strategy we're taking on internally and through some of our external parties to obviously elevate Rutgers athletics and our competitive space in particular, there are a number of really encouraging things about what exists here. If you're not following closely the world of college athletics, or if you are, you'll know that on July 1st, in response to a multi-billion-dollar legal lawsuit that took place against the NCAA, very quickly institutions who have done well in the world of college sports or those who have been seeking an edge or advantage have found themselves in a place where there's an opportunity to really strategize and find yourself in a better competitive space moving forward. And certainly that was one of the pieces that attracted me to this, admittedly, and as many of you who have followed it closely know, we've got some work to do as it relates to our capability in the competitive space and boosting our programs athletically. That's not only good for the university and for the young men and women who are part of it, but it's great for the state of New Jersey as a whole, the economic impact that that takes on. There are numerous, data and analytics that you can look at across the country to see that. And so right now, we have the opportunity to capitalize on a truly new era of college athletics. And so it wasn't so much about the history that's here, but certainly the opportunity for the future. You layer that with the fact that we sit within the Big Ten Conference, and admittedly, anybody in the world of college sports right now are largely attracted to the Big Ten and or the SEC. I just came from the SEC, and so recognizing and understanding that competitive landscape was important. You may also be aware, and I'll end on a very positive note, that if you do not yet know President Bill Tate, who he and I were together at LSU, and I was devastated when he left there a number of months ago, to find myself in a place where I consider being the luckiest administrator in the country that he chose to bring with him to this incredible opportunity. Certainly that was just the icing on the cake. So thrilled to be here. You're going to hear, thank you so much. You're going to hear a ton of things in the future about what we're capable of at Rutgers and what we expect for this incredible university and state as a whole.
You know, we talk about male role models and male mentors as women in business, and I do want to take a sideline just on Dr. Tate, because the idea of having, the leader who recognized the talent of the women who he had prior, who got him to where he might have been then as part of that winning team, and then to take that step to bring you here in New Jersey, cheers to Dr. Tate.
Yes, absolutely.
Now, you came to Rutgers, this is Donnie the drone, so if he comes by, just kind of give him a wave. As we say, the Innovation Association that we are at NJBIA, and we like to have some fun, too. So you came to Rutgers with a well-noted, strong reputation of being dubbed a rising star. Incredible. We gave some beautiful Rising Star Awards this morning. We had a couple of young ladies from Rutgers who were part of that. But when you were first hired at LSU, you were called a game changer by the Sports Business Journal. And then you were named to its 40 under 40 list shortly after that. So just to let me brag on you just a little bit more, because it's important for everyone to know. The West Virginia Executive Magazine included you in its 2022 Young Guns class. And what that includes is people who represent a generation of leaders who've accomplished great things through their careers in the business world and in their communities. And we talk constantly, Keli, about the importance of integrating business and community and how great businesses make great communities and great business leaders make those great businesses. But you don't just get accolades like that without sincere hard work. So tell us about your work ethic and journey that brought you into the limelight in that way to be recognized in these manners.
Yeah, I'd say the work ethic piece is probably first and foremost why I sit before you here today. I've always kind of been powered by the mentality that you should control what you can control. And the reality is how much time and energy you put into something is within your control, right? If you think about it, beyond eating and sleeping to survive, you really can take your pick as to where you choose to spend your time. And so certainly early on in my career, I was heavily focused on that space. Didn't know and certainly had not plotted out what opportunity might exist. And instead, I made it a point that each stop I was at along the way, I was going to focus on doing the best job I possibly could. And I just so happened to find myself in the midst of some really great mentors and people who, above me, had both the willingness and the ability to be able to put me in some really good spots and offer me additional opportunity. And that opportunity along the way obviously led to incredible growth. And so I'm sitting here, yes, with a really laser-focused mentality on the task ahead, how we get there, and being effective in that role, but certainly would not have been able to accomplish that without all the people who helped me along the way and opened up those opportunities. And so in that regard, I think, again, the work ethic is something that people notice. And when you're present and you're giving of your time and energy to be a part of something, that's noticed by the people at the top if they're seeking that out and paying attention. And so I've been the beneficiary of that for 22 plus years, which is about how long I've been in the business, and certainly been a really big blessing.
And so that work ethic started at a very young age because you have an incredible, vast history of firsts. And that started, pre-college. As I understand, you were the first girl to play in your county's all-boys baseball league. You were the first female at your, I would say give her a round for each one because this is incredible. You were the first female at your high school to be named Athlete of the Year. And the first female to lead the West Virginia Athletic Department back in 2014. What is it like to break those barriers?
Yeah, at the time, I probably didn't think a lot of it as far as the sports realm was concerned. You look back on life later and then you say to yourself, wow, that's pretty incredible that you find yourself in those places and to be able to navigate through it. But I come from a very small town in a place called Petersburg, West Virginia, about 4.5, 5 hours from here. 2,100 people, and admittedly that population has not shifted a whole lot in 40 plus years. And at the time, there was no softball program. My dad didn't have any boys, and I certainly took on the gene of being really athletic, and that was kind of our relationship from when I was wee little, and he was a huge baseball fan. And so I went out for the youth baseball team, ended up playing third base and batted fifth in the lineup. And so for my people, yes, who understand the world of sports and baseball, that I had some real talent in that space. Unfortunately, I was as well as I could hit, was about as poorly as the speed at which I could run. And that coupled with the fact that some growth later, you recognize you're really up against something in that space with pitching and some of the things that can happen on a baseball diamond. And so I bailed out of that as I started to make some progress in some other programs. And then certainly in high school was able to be the first female to gain Athlete of the Year. Again, not a ton of competition in a very small town, but nonetheless an example that I look back on that not only at the time probably showed a real passion and interest in the world of sports, but also just the ability to look beyond maybe what the landscape was there and just focus on what I was able to achieve in it versus what maybe those barriers would look like.
So that's having technical skills. You were born into a family, had the opportunities to build those technical skills, the athletic skills that some of us wish we had more of, for sure. But it takes more than just the technical skills. And we say this in the business world every day. It's one thing to have the technical skills, but where's the passion and the drive and those other competencies come from in order to then become and begin the leadership journey?
Yeah, and again, I think, mastering your craft and becoming the expert of what you're expected to serve in is really important. You can do that by taking in some cases the initiative on your own. Others are, working through mentors and folks that you see do it really, really well. But at the end of the day, I think a lot of us have the capability to control our own destiny. You just need some opportunity along the way and the people that are going to give you the chance to really thrive in that. But the passion and energy for it, particularly in the world of sports, is something that can really propel you forward. And I was conditioned for that. Admittedly, you're not looking at someone who was super smart and overly intelligent. In college, I never graduated with honors, which at the time was a very difficult situation for my father to understand as a former educator himself. He now looks back on that criticism and feels a little bit better about it because things ended up pretty well. But I worked really, really hard and surrounded myself with people who were going to be very honest and critical in their assessment of my work, but to do so in a way where they could help me get in a place where I could be effective. And it's college sports, right? Some of our folks are here internally. I've got an incredible staff at Rutgers, and they've heard me say, it's not that difficult, right? Coaches have probably the most challenging job, one that week to week they're expected to go up against competition, figure out how to gain that edge to get there, and the development and technique and everything that's necessary for their roster in order to win in that field of play. But for the administration, we're not curing cancer, right? And this isn't something that needs to be overly complicated. And so I've probably taken a more simplified approach on some of those expectations over the year, and then plan your work your plan to get there, know what your destination looks like, and then finding a way or making a way to see that through to conclusion.
So when Keli shows up, she doesn't just show up, she shows up and wins. You've had many successes in your roles. So as second in command at LSU, your LSU Tigers captured 4 national championships, right? 2 in baseball, 1 in gymnastics and women's basketball. You saw a Heisman Trophy winner in football as well. But your leadership wasn't just about overseeing that sports program. You put yourself out in ensuring that you could be part of the business of the organization as well. And winning in that regard was significantly boosting the revenue to the school. You were highly engaged in your community to do that. So how did you take your leadership from the field to the community, and how do you create followership so that people get excited about what you're doing so that you can all win together and the community wins with you?
Yeah, well, and I think that's a part of the beauty of sports, right? People want to be a part of something that's exciting, that has the capability to really boost the people involved, but all those around it, and that's exactly what we're capable of doing. And so showing that vision to people and helping them see that picture before it's realized is something that can create some real optimism and expectations. In the world of sports, in a large degree, you're selling hope and optimism, right? We don't know if it's going to end up that way when the clock kicks down, but getting people to get behind it in a way where they can feel good about it starts with my ability and my team's ability in administrators, coaches, and student athletes to be able to show why we're capable of that success. And so that's what you're going to see from us, right? It starts with, and you mentioned a lot of things at LSU, a mentality to where we know what we're capable of achieving. And if we're not there today, based up on the technique, the strategy, the skill set that exists, then we need to go out and find that or create that through what we have. And so you're going to see really high expectations from me in that regard. And in the large majority of cases, people have been so celebratory of the past, 6 weeks. It's been incredibly motivating to me. There's also been a number of other folks who have said, my gosh, do you really know what you're up against? Because I think they hear what my vision and what President Tate's vision is for Rutgers, and they then layer that in a history of some real challenges in the space and say, does she have some blind faith? But as I've shared with some of them, I'd much rather go into it with a little bit of blinders on right now and be bullish in what we are capable of accomplishing and move boldly towards that than find myself in a place where I'm looking around and coming up with excuses as to why we can't get there.
Oh, no, that's great. And now bringing it back, onto campus, and you just touched on it, right? Headwinds at Rutgers here and there over the past few years, for sure, particularly in the athletic program. So kind of walking into that lion's den a bit. But a lot of that has to do with really good culture, too. So let's talk about culture for a minute. How do you come in new and build a winning culture to prove that history is just that and today's a new day?
Yeah, I think it starts with really clear expectations of what you're seeking. And I'm hopeful that if you were to right now go within the halls of the athletics department and knock on some offices to say what's expected of you, they know in a pretty short period of time what that is, right? I expect you to be effective in the role that you're serving in and what we're seeking from you. I expect you to be optimistic. And while I don't have unreasonable expectations where everybody's going to be happy all day, every day, you've got to figure out in those moments of issue or concern where you can work beyond that and have a lot of really, really good days as compared to the bad. And then the separate one is the mentality at the top, right? There's 300 plus full-time employees within our athletics department. We have numerous coaches and we have 700 plus student athletes. There is a trickle-down effect from everybody, starting with myself, as to what then the people around you see and expect in the expectations for our future. And so navigating through that in a way with, yes, optimism and expectation, but some real strategy as to how you achieve is important. The other thing is I expect people to be decisive in their roles, right? If you've been given, the position to be able to make decisions and empower people, you got to have the authority to walk within that space, but walk in it in a way where you use it for good. And if you're not capable of making a decision, then you shouldn't be serving in that capacity. And so there's a combination of, evaluation and assessment, but I think good leadership in and of itself comes from a place of knowing where we're headed, how we're going to get there, but then being a really good partner to work with through the course of that. And in that regard, oftentimes it's as simple as just being nice and encouraging, and when someone hasn't met what you're seeking for them, holding them accountable in a way where it's effective, and then you can move forward.
Yeah, definitely formula for success. Shifting just the gears slightly, a little more myopically to women in sports. Right? I truly believe myself that Title IX has had an incredible impact for women in sports. And we've watched it over the decades. Clearly, we're not where we need to be relative to men's sports and sponsorships and visibility and TV time and anything else. But there is something special and unique about women who do come up in sports. The idea of teamwork, working together, right? Communicating as a team, et cetera. And what that means to take you further up into your career. What are some of your thoughts around women coming up through sports and the value, especially for many of the parents out there, the value of encouraging your students to participate in sports?
Oh, it's huge. I mean, when you look at it from a standpoint of everything that the world of sport offers, from discipline to collaboration to teamwork to motivation to working through adversity to celebrating achievement, I mean, you name it, it's just an incredible place to find yourself in. And I think for young men and women, whether or not you have a significant level of athletic ability, some of those things that you learn from it, even if you're not the quote unquote exceptional athlete with high talent, there's so much good to come out of that helps shape a person's mentality, their physique, and their physical capability in life. Oftentimes athletes, tend to find themselves in a place where they live a healthier lifestyle just based upon some of the discipline that exists there. And that too can be really powerful and supportive for a person's lifetime well beyond when they're finished playing. And so that's absolutely a big part of it. I think as it relates, though, to the women's sports movement and where that's at, the biggest way that people can move the needle on that is through the direct consumption of sports, right? At the end of the day, when you look at TV viewership, revenue, and all the things that's driving the almighty dollar of sports, it's really based upon consumption. And so those numbers are not going to change until people do take notice and genuinely support and get behind women's programs. I probably saw it at its best on a national scale at LSU, and from that, you saw a really significant impact. We consistently drew 12,000 every night for a gymnastics meet. Right? I'm not going to talk about our attendance here at Rutgers because it's my job now to move that in a better direction. But you take something like that and the comparable, it's as simple as people getting behind something that they're passionate about and starting there to be able to move the needle on that sport. Same thing for women's basketball and a number of them. I mean, they were genuinely showing in data and metrics that equate to financial gain and revenue that they were moving the needle at LSU. And so I'm going to do my part to, at minimum, bring exposure to that here so people can see it is a possibility that can be attained, and start there, and then hope that we put together the programs that have the athleticism and capability to compete in a way that automatically tends to have people draw their attendance to those programs.
So I'm coming to the audience for Q&A in 1 minute, so get ready, get those mics out and get those hands ready to go up. But before we go there, as they get set, you touched at the beginning about some of the challenges in college sports today and name, image, likeness, and what that affects. So let's just go to the student athlete for a moment. How does dealing with those external forces keep the students focused? What is your role in keeping them focused and the team accelerating when you've got these external pressures now bearing down on college sports?
Yeah, I mean, we've always seen a world of a lot of pressure. I think if you were to look at, 4 years ago when name, image, and likeness came online, you saw numerous articles and media reports about this is going to ruin the locker room and they're going to be distracted and they're not going to be able to compete the way that they used to. And you've seen time and time again over the past handful of years where that just proved to not be true. And instead, in often cases, what you're seeing is young men and women really rooting for teammates to be active in that space. They recognize not just the value that it has on an individual student athlete, but what that means for the program, the athletics department as a whole, and then to a certain degree, the university. And so, yes, there's a lot of pressure there. We certainly, and Rutgers is not alone in this, put together a really good support staff to help them navigate through some of those things, whether it's NIL or something else, and in most cases it's something else, right? But so a really significant amount of support exists throughout the collegiate landscape, but I think aside from that and some of the more formal things that you see internally, it's also having a pulse on your programs and working with those athletes in a way where they recognize what's expected of them, but to do so in a way where they can feel really good about where they're at. And so that really boils down in its simplest form as a good, strong, healthy relationship. And you'll see me be as visible as I possibly can with them to help them to understand that the person sitting at the top certainly has their best interest in mind.
No, it's fabulous. Thank you. I think we have time for maybe one question or two questions from the audience. Do we have a question? If not, I know I have one.
We have one.
Oh, okay, right over here. Thank you.
Hi, I'm Megan. I'm with Switlick Survival Products, and I'm a mechanical and textile engineer. And I wanted to ask a question of being at a women's business leadership forum. As a woman in a space that is, I guess, part of an industry where a lot of the focus is around men, how do you challenge some of the biases that exist in the industry and really overcome those to be the person that you are?
Yeah, that's a good question. I think as evidenced by the fact that I'm sitting here before you today, I've been able to navigate some of that and thankfully haven't really been subject to a ton of those challenges. And instead, I've been really fortunate that throughout my career, it's with the exception of one female in particular who happened to be the athletics director at the University of Maryland, where I was able to work with her for 6 years. It's always actually been men who have promoted me and pushed me and provided me with opportunity beyond what I had. And so whether that was destiny, where I was intended to be here and there were people put in my path who were going to empower me and expect a lot of me, but also in return open up those opportunities. I got really lucky. What I've done outside of my immediate circle is to serve as an example of what can happen and take place when that in fact is the case, right? And so while it's been my personal experience that's been really, really positive, not everybody's wired that way and not everybody feels that way. And so if I can be an example where there's a gentleman in the business who took a chance on me and maybe a man sitting next to him has that bias, doesn't feel that way and doesn't see the capability of a woman, perhaps he can look at that and say, wow, he got that right. And she's incredible, and so maybe I should take a closer look at this gal, or I shouldn't feel the way that I do. And so again, I think a lot of it is controlling what you can control, but for the most part, I've been really, really fortunate to have men a part of my path who have been instrumental in my career and my growth.
So let me just say, we're going to add to your resume humble, because while lucky and fortunate are great things in the world, right? If you don't have what it takes when that opportunity presents itself, you're definitely getting passed. And there's no way you didn't have the goods whenever he looked and said, she's the one we want there. So we all believe that timing is everything in life, right? But we all need to acknowledge that when timing comes our way, we're going to be ready for the moment. Kelly, clearly you've been ready for your moments. We're so proud to have you at Rutgers. I have a lightning round because you're new to New Jersey, and we need to make a Jersey girl out of you. Now we're gonna let that
fantastic.
We're gonna let that Southern accent go, right? Okay, that's fine, because we love that. Okay, we love that. But Jersey girl, there are some things we have here in Jersey that we have to test. So I have a quick rapid fire to wrap us up here. Let's see how she does and what type of Jersey girl she's gonna be. You ready? All right, here we go. Shore or mountains?
Shore.
Beautiful. All right, here we go. Now, here's where the pulse goes in the room, right? Okay, hoagies or subs?
Subs.
All right. Here's one. Sprinkles or jimmies?
Sprinkles.
Did you even know what a jimmy was? I know originally I never knew what a jimmy was. This one's really important. Taylor ham or pork roll?
Oh, I got crushed a little bit for this when the Big Ten Network interviewed me during halftime of one of our games. Pork roll, but let me explain why. So, two things, right? So as this debate cropped up when I got here, and admittedly I was like, well, this is interesting, right? I went to two really long-time staff members in our athletics department, and I asked their opinion, pork roll or Taylor ham. They both said pork roll. So immediately I said, I'm going to go down this lane. And then sure enough, it's my first game day. I'm out visiting a bunch of tailgates, and we come up on a tailgate who had offered me my first pork roll. And we have since gone back to see him, a chef in the Scarlet Lot who has cooked myself, my husband, and anyone who's with me during the day a pork roll before each game. Even though on Friday it's a night game, he has offered up a pork roll that I'm going to have for dinner. And so I'll see him then. Separate from that, and the final thing I would say, if anyone in the room is connected to Taylor ham, I am prepared to move off of my pork roll stance to Taylor ham if said Taylor ham offers up a sponsorship for the athletics department, complete with name, image, and likeness opportunity for our athletes.
Game on. We love competition here in New Jersey. Very last one. Is Rutgers located in North or South Jersey?
Oh gosh, another one that I north.
We'll let you get away with that. Some might say central. Let's give it up for Keli Zinn.